You know, there's a few things going on today. Like there's two things of good news. You know what? I just decided I'm only going to talk about good news today because there are two good news items that I want to talk about. The first matters to the whole world. Joe Biden says, now this is what he's saying now, there's going to be no F16s to Ukraine. That ain't happening. We were told by Ukraine, hint, hint, that there were expedited talks going on between the U.S. and Ukraine about sending F-16s to Ukraine. And the Pentagon was leaking to Politico, a D.C.-based newspaper, that there were people really want to send F-16s to Ukraine. All of this. And then Biden, when directly asked about it, he says, oh, no, that's crazy. That's not happening. So this is good. Now, Biden, is he a man of his word? Obviously not. Back in March of 2022, just mere months ago, he said that the idea that we'd be sending tanks to Ukraine is crazy because that would be World War III. Well, here we are now. We're sending tanks to Ukraine. The whole West is expected to send tanks to Ukraine, and if you don't support that, well, then you're a bad person, we're told. But the F-16 thing now, he seems to be drawing a line at that. Although, it could just be that Biden is misinformed, and that he hasn't been told yet that the U.S. is going to send F-16s to Ukraine. It really could be that simple, since obviously he's not in charge. I would think that the word of the Pentagon bros is a lot more substantial and meaningful than the word of Joe Biden himself. Nevertheless, I'm going to take this as a win for now and say, you know what? He said it. I'm going to take him at his word. I want this to be true. Now, the second bit of good news is that the Florida Speaker of the House announced, dun dun dun, drum roll please, constitutional carry legislation, which is something that I was told was coming a long time ago. I was told this was in the pipeline. I've been waiting, and here we are. So, it took a long time. I was told about this from somebody I know who worked up there last year. Hey, we're getting constitutional carry. And I said, great, so when's that happening? Well, we're getting it in the 2023 spring legislative session, which I believe ends in May. So people have been speculating that, hey, if Desantis wants to run for president, which I'm not sold on yet, honestly. I'm not as skeptical as I was, a couple months ago, but Trump is imploding so badly that I think that, if I were in DeSantis' shoes, I'd be saying, hey, I've got a lot more opportunity here. Trump has not exactly landed on, he's not gotten off to a running start, let's say, with his presidential campaign. He's chastising people who are skeptical of his vaccine. And I guess since we're on YouTube, I can't quite say as much as I think about the vaccine. I mean, I'm sure you've picked it up. If you were a subscriber to this channel, you've picked up my feelings about the vaccine. You know what everyone who is a normal, free-thinking person thinks about the vaccine at this point. I covered the Veritas stuff. Let's just say, not a fan. But old Donaldo Trumpo keeps insisting that he saved hundreds of millions of lives. Everyone knows it. Everyone says so, and that he's a great guy, and that this is his number one achievement, as president. It's what he's most proud of. And if he keeps running that way, well, that creates a pretty big opening for literally anyone who is critical of the big pharma blob. Trump is trying to attack DeSantis as lockdown Ron, and I don't think that that's going to land. But anyway, that's for the future. Today is not about 2024 politics so much. It's mainly about the constitutional carry thing. But as I was saying, constitutional carry is a good thing for DeSantis to put on his resume in a Republican primary. It's extremely popular amongst Republican primary voters, particularly, the most conservative voters of the primary, which is who DeSantis is going to be going after. He's not going to be attacking Trump from the left. If DeSantis were to run for president, he would be attacking Trump from the right. Trump, as we all know, he's not Mr. Pro-Gun, to say the least. We had a bump stock ban under his watch. And the ATF has, even though it was getting worse under Trump, it continued to get worse under Biden. I don't think that anyone has any delusions about Trump rolling back ATF unilateral decrees, where they write laws out of thin air, such as, hey, all of you who own pistol braces, or pistols that can accept a pistol brace, that have a pistol brace manufactured for them, you've now got an NFA item, and you either need to destroy that or turn it over to the ATF, or I think maybe you have an option of registering it as an NFA item and paying a $200 tax stamp. And if you don't do that, if you don't see this notice to do that, you're just automatically a felon, even if you had no idea. Trump, perfectly happy with that sort of thing. He did it with the bump stocks. Everyone who owns a bump stock now is a felon. So DeSantis has, I think, good reason to try and ingratiate himself with the 2A crowd, who have been disappointed by Il Donaldo Trumpo. And for those of you unaware, I guess I should say this, constitutional carry means that you can carry, it is your right to carry a gun on your person. You don't need to get a license to do that, which you currently do in the state of Florida. Now, I don't think the constitutional carry will roll back, the waiting period, which currently, if you have a concealed license, you don't have a waiting period. You can just go buy guns as you please. So there still might be an incentive to go out and get the license, if you want to be able to actually walk into a gun store and leave with a gun, if you happen to find one that you like. Or it's even more annoying if you buy one online. You have the shipping time, then the gun gets to a store, then you go to the store and you fill out all the paperwork, and then it's 3 business days, and only weekdays, Monday through Friday, not counting holidays, even bank holidays. So it's as long as possible, the way the waiting period works. A lot of people probably will still want to get the license unless this bill includes that, but it's a nice thing. But this is a great recognition of, hey, it's your right. If you have a gun, or if someone hands you a gun and you feel that you want to carry it on you, let's say you're a woman with a bad ex-boyfriend you're worried about, your dad or your brother can hand off a gun to you and say, hey, keep this in your purse, keep it on your nightstand or something. If the crazy guy comes to your door, protect yourself. Or, what am I saying? That's in your house anyway. You can already do that. I even forgot what my analogy was supposed to be about, or what this example was supposed to be about. It's if you can carry it on your person. So put it in your purse, in your car, that sort of a thing, on your person. That, under a constitutional carry law, totally legal, without any prerequisites, without any permission slips from the state. And it's frankly just the way things ought to be. It's the way things were, back until, I guess, the Reconstruction era, because I guess they wanted to tamp down on duels, so they outlawed people carrying guns, and then slowly they reintroduced people carrying guns by creating, the concealed weapons licenses and all this nonsense. People forget that, like, back in the 70s or the 60s, particularly in the South, it was pretty hard to actually carry a gun around if you wanted to. This is one area where we've made a lot of progress in America. And it's an easy one that should be popular. People like being able to protect themselves. That is the most, that is the way that you argue in favor of the Second Amendment. That is the most popular. That's what makes the most sense to the most amount of people. Now, I'm hoping, getting back to the 2024 discussion, that if DeSantis does want to run for president against old Trump, that he adds even more things to his resume, which means that they'll be doing more good things in the legislative session. As far as I'm concerned, whether DeSantis becomes president or not, or even runs for president, if he's at all interested in running for president, he's incentivized to do things in Florida that will make me, as a resident of this state, happy. Because I'm the kind of voter who he would be trying to appeal to, even if he's thinking about it. Now, he might, after all this, decide, I'm not going to run anyway. Oh, well, we still got constitutional carry and whatever else out of it. We still get, reforms to the state university system. He's de-wokifying a state college. He's got, kind of mealy-mouthed, mushy middle Ben Sasse to be the president of the University of Florida. But hey, Ben Sasse is a huge improvement over, whatever, crazy left-wing culture warrior would have been the president of the University of Florida. He's got Chris Rufo on the board of a small liberal arts college. That's going to become, basically red-pilled university. And you know what? On the other hand, DeSantis being better also puts pressure on Trump to be better himself. So all around, the competition is good for we the voters. It gives us better options, because if DeSantis is better and Trump really, feels threatened by him, Trump should try and, compete and outdo him and become even better. The problem, I think, is that Trump is currently very much out of touch. I hope that changes, since he's already running for president and is clearly the front runner. He's the front runner because he's the only one running. That's kind of how that works. But even still, if DeSantis were to get in, Trump would still be the front runner. Trump, previously was a president of the United States. He has universal name ID. DeSantis does not. It's that simple. And I'm someone who, I've been slow. I'm not on the bandwagon by any means, but the more I hear Trump talk about his jabs that he loves so much, the more I feel like jumping on the Ronnie D bandwagon. But I never cheerlead for anyone, not any candidate. I'm completely, let's say, lucid when it comes to the flaws of any particular candidate. If you try and talk me out of supporting somebody by pointing out their flaws, that doesn't work for me. Negative ads don't work for me because I know all the negatives about these candidates. I think about the negatives first, and then I think about, gee, now that I know why I don't like these people, what reason do I have to like them over whoever else? So in the coming months, I think that DeSantis as governor will have to step up his game even more. I'm eagerly anticipating something to come out of this grand jury investigation into Big Pharma. Remember, we still have Joseph Ladapo is our Surgeon General. Now, since we're on this topic, even though I said I wasn't going to get into the topic of 2024, and I just wanted to celebrate constitutional carry and the right to bear arms, I will say that DeSantis' silence on foreign policy in general has been rather deafening, as the as the meme goes. Trump, I'm glad to see, recognizes the danger of sending tanks to Ukraine. He says, today it's nukes, tomorrow, or today it's tanks, tomorrow it'll be nukes. I don't think that's hyperbole. If DeSantis has any substantial weak points, I would say that they're in the foreign policy sphere, which, as far as I'm concerned, foreign policy is half of all policy. And in fact, foreign policy typically is much more important than the domestic stuff. And since he has been a governor and, on the right side, he is not really, he's had almost no foreign policy expression. He has not mentioned it much. And, except for maybe a couple of words here or there that, may sound good or may sound concerning. Back when he was a member of the House of Representatives, it was a different time in the GOP, and he was definitely, a team player back then. I don't think that he would have been anyone who, on foreign policy, I was particularly excited about. But, DeSantis understands the game has changed. He's trying. I think that DeSantis is a calculating politician. He's not going to come out and go full neocon. But what we have to wait for is see, how good is he at trying to flex his non-interventionist muscles? How much of a command of the history and of the language is he going to have in this sphere? Frankly, considering how much he's been able to adapt in other areas and really channel what the base has been feeling. Well, I think that he probably will come out with a competent foreign policy, but that's just conjecture. You know, Trump's foreign policy as president, at least he has an actual record, and that record is the best of any president in my lifetime. But it also, in and of itself, was quite spotty. If you go back through the archives of this channel, you will find plenty of posts in which I castigate Trump on the topic of foreign policy. In fact, there have been periods in this channel where I talked about foreign policy more than anything else because, you know, not a lot of people focus on foreign policy. The war in Yemen, the brinksmanship with Iran particularly bothered me. The assassination of Qasem Soleimani. These were all things I was not thrilled about, although I will give Trump some credit in that, well, at least, you know, that brinksmanship with Iran didn't evolve into a full-scale war. You know, he didn't escalate the war in Ukraine, despite, you know, he did send weapons there, which Obama did not want to do, but, you know, this Ukraine crisis did not break out until after Trump was long gone. You know, the whole Ukraine situation was just kind of on a simmer while Trump was president. There was a pause. You know, it started under Obama, and it simmered down a little bit with Minsk II, I think it was, and that kind of held into the Biden administration. And obviously, you can't just say, well, it's entirely the U.S. president's. The U.S. president gets to either take credit for full credit or full blame for what goes on in Ukraine and the war in the Donbass. But I think that the U.S., as we've learned, plays a pretty significant role. And so I think that you certainly should factor in the events in Ukraine into grading a president's foreign policy performance. And so in the area of Ukraine, Trump has pretty close to a near-perfect score as far as that's concerned. Although I'm probably overstating it, but hey. Desantis, on the other hand, definitely has to prove himself. He definitely has a tough row to hoe to prove his foreign policy chops. So, with that said, I will see you folks back here tomorrow.